UFC 313 just wrapped up last night. I just got off the plane celebrating with Mog. And listen, before I take my bias out of this, we had a great time. I was able to whip the boys up some steaks from the Real Food Cookbook. And, it was a good time. It was a good time. Magomed said to me, he said, brother, this time buckle head for you. And they kicked me out. But then they brought me back in and they were like, brother, we just playing, brother. Anyway, you're looking at the thumbnail of this video. And I'm going to take my bias out of this because, again, it's time to put the analyst hat on. I thought Alex Pereira won last night. And I was very surprised about everything that we saw, okay? We may as well get to this. Listen, I thought the main event and co-main event could have gone the other way. I thought Rafael Fiziev actually could have gotten the nod as well. But we'll talk about this, and I know that people are going to be in the comments. They're going to saying, oh my God, bro. Dude, that is a disgrace. Rounds 1, 3, and 5 could have gone to Alex Pereira. In fact, every single judge gave Alex Pereira the first round. Basically, every single judge gave him the 5th round. The swing round is the 3rd round. And we may as well just get into this. I believe, and I know some people are going to be angry because, again, they're going to look at the thumbnail of the video and they're going to be saying, dude, come on, bro, just give it up. Pereira lost, man. No, we're going to talk about this objectively, and I need to just say this. If you disagree with what I'm saying, rewatch round 3 and tell me with a straight face that that is not an extremely close round that could have gone to Alex Pereira, where he actually outlanded Magomed Ankalaev. And before anyone else says, it was just the kicks, man. It was just the kicks, man. Magomed Ankalaev hardly did anything else in that round either. And pretty much only threw kicks himself. And for every single punch he threw, Pereira landed a punch as well. The reason why they gave this fight to Magomed Ankalaev, it was the classic judges mess up, is because he rocked Alex Pereira in the 2nd round and had Alex Pereira on the back foot on his bike in the 3rd and obviously won the 4th. So for the bulk of the fight, Pereira goes out there first round. It's very competitive, but it's obvious Magomed Ankalaev is heating up. He's very tentative. And Pereira, he starts going with the leg kicks. I believe within the first couple of minutes, he's already landed 10. He throws a couple spinning attacks into a leg kick. Pereira's feeling himself in the first round. He won that round. Magomed starts getting going at the end of it. 2nd round, Magomed wins, hurts Pereira. I was freaking out. I was, listen, I was backstage. I was hyped for Magomed, but I was like, shit, dude, I don't want to see Poatan get knocked out right now. And then the 3rd round, Magomed Ankalaev, I don't know what it was. I'm just going to say it right now. Pereira, dude, the fight was completely different than how I expected. And I know that some people picked Magomed Ankalaev. Some people pick Alex Pereira, including myself. But I don't think anyone expected the fight to go down like that. Magomed didn't get a single fucking takedown last night. Not one. Pereira got a takedown on Magomed. Isn't that insane? Magomed went out there and literally just outstruck Alex Pereira. And Pereira, I'm just going to say it, his hands look terrible. I know his boxing has never been that good, and Magomed has slick straight shots down the middle, but Pereira was just so tentative to let his hands go. Maybe that was after he got rocked and whatnot, but still, he just looks so slow with his boxing. And of course, I was very impressed with the fact that Magomed Ankalaev was able to win this fight, because even though I thought that Pereira had it, I was very impressed that Magomed was able to win this fight by just standing up. And of course, the 4th round where he's just, clinching Alex Pereira up against the fence, which I thought was very smart. It was annoying to see. It was very boring, and I was happy he didn't do that in the 5th. But it was very smart because he thought he was ahead. He thought that he had won the last 2 rounds. And he went out there and smudged him in the 4th to bank that round as well. But you got to think about it like this. Pereira wins the 1st round. He wins the 5th round. He rocks Ankalaev in the 5th with a head kick, sort of. And before the head kick was already outlanding him and had a good round. It's the 3rd round that is the swing round. I believe the judges gave it to Magomed because Pereira was on the back foot, but Pereira outlanded this guy by like 5 or 6 strikes. And I think that there's an argument that he gets that round. And I'm not going to call this a brutal robbery, but I am just going to say this. Anyone that's telling you that this was a dominant performance from Magomed Ankalaev is out of their fucking mind and their bias. All right, I'm taking my bias. Dude, I'm a Magomed Ankalaev, training partner, okay? No, but they're biased. This was not dominant at all. At all. Yes, I'm a little bit bummed out that Poatan don't have the belt no more. Okay? Like, dude, everyone's saying, man, bro, why do you even want Poatan to be champ, bro? Because of this shit, dude. Fuck. Listen, let's get serious for a second. Watch round 3. Anyone that disagrees with this, watch round 3. Because I know there's going to be people that are saying, dude, just can't give it up, man. Just can't accept the reality. Nope. It's not that I can't accept reality. Round 1, Pereira. Round 5, Pereira. Round 2, Magomed. Not a 10-8. Dude, that scared the shit out of me. But round 3, Pereira's heating up on the back foot, landing kicks. And he actually landed a couple of good combinations. A snapback counter right hand. Magomed, you're going to say, what did Pereira do outside the leg kicks? Magomed basically only threw leg kicks and teeps in that round as well. Landed a couple punches, so did Pereira. But Pereira outlanded him by 5 or 6 strikes. He was on the back foot. That's why the judges gave it to him. And again, it's because he got rocked in the second, was on the back foot in the third, and looked gassed in the fourth, and didn't look himself. And that's what the judges saw. And the judges, instead of just going round by round, and I'm not saying, again, you couldn't have possibly have, I mean, come on. Are we really just giving a round to a guy just because he's the one walking forward, even though he's getting outlanded? Like, the point that I'm making is they were looking at it as if, they were looking at the vibe of the fight. They weren't looking round by round. They were looking at the vibe, dude. He got rocked in the second, right? Oh, Pereira got rocked. Everyone scored that round for Magomed. Of course, that's a Magomed round. Round 3. Again, Pereira, back foot. Not looking so confident, not letting his hands go, but throwing kicks. Well, Magomed's marching forward, and this is surprising because Magomed's able to stand with him, and he's not going down to a left hook, so I'm going to score that round to Magomed and give him the benefit of the doubt. That's basically what I think they saw. So, listen, I really do believe that this was a fight that could have gone Alex's way. When it wrapped up, I was like, man, I think they actually might give this to Alex because, again, that third round was very close, but you never know, and they gave it to Magomed. So we have a new champion. Again, people are going to be upset because I'm saying that this is just how I saw the fight. I mean, I'm not saying that this was a brutal robbery. I thought that Pereira had won rounds 3, 1, and 5. Magomed won rounds 2 clearly. He was competitive in round 3, clearly, and had won round 4, clearly, but had lost round 5, clearly, and lost round 1, clearly. And again, I just see some people saying Pereira got dominated. Dude, I'm impressed that Magomed could stand with this guy. Like, it is very impressive. Not only Pereira's takedown defense, but the fact that Magomed was just that tough of a puzzle for Pereira to solve. And I will say this, even though I do believe that Alex sort of edged this one out based on the rounds. If these guys were to have a rematch, Alex would be older. Pereira would be even more confident after this one. He knows he can hurt Pereira. Pereira hasn't really hurt him. I mean, I know the wrestling isn't going to work that much, but I wouldn't mind picking Magomed Ankalaev in a rematch just based on the momentum. And I think that that's what we're going to see. I would love to see a Yuri Prochazka Magomed Ankalaev fight, but we got to see the rematch, and I'm only saying that because, like, listen, this isn't some guy that just won the belt and then, had a Mickey Mouse title defense like a Sean O'Malley who's getting a rematch against Merab immediately. No, Alex Pereira has had a 5-fight win streak against, 3 former champions, Khalil Roundtree, 4 title wins. He's the biggest name in this division. I mean, listen, I don't mind if Yuri and Ankalaev get in there soon, but I would really like to see Alex Pereira and Magomed run it back. And I think the UFC is going to want to do that too. But dude, Magomed was a tricky customer for Alex. Like, I was not expecting it to be that difficult for Pereira to find Ankalaev. Like, listen, Pereira's fought guys that are fast before. He's fought Khalil Roundtree, he's fought Adesanya, he's fought great strikers like Jan Blachowicz. And I'm not even going to say it was the threat of the takedown that was really, making it so difficult for him to have that much success. I don't think it was just the threat of the takedown because, listen, early on in the fight, Magomed wasn't shooting. And when he did shoot, Alex Pereira was able to stuff it every time. And I think it was, his gas tank. Magomed was definitely the guy with the better conditioning last night. Again, kind of surprising because we don't normally see Pereira gas. And Pereira's been in some physical fights where he's been cutting weight. Look at that Adesanya fight. Adesanya had a round against Pereira where he was beating him up on the ground. And that was at 185 with a horrible weight cut. Pereira looked like he had a lot of energy in that round 5. That's why I keep saying, he just looked like shit in his striking. I'm just going to say it how it is, dude. He didn't look good at all. He looked slow. All right? He looked tentative. The commentators were talking about it. He was on the back foot the whole time, and that's credit to Magomed 100%, but I'm fine with Magomed. This guy's, he's a good striker, but he's not he's not like a Volkanovski on the feet. He's not like a featherweight, Ilia Topuria fight IQ, right? No, but listen, Magomed is a good striker. He impressed us all last night. But I'm still surprised how Magomed Ankalaev was that tough of a puzzle, right? It's not just the southpaw thing. It must be that Magomed is a master of keeping distance, and he has really good eyes. Very good eyes, master of keeping distance. That's what I will say, because it has always been, a bit of a tricky task to hit Magomed Ankalaev clean. But I swear, man, I saw Alexander Rakic land more left hooks than Alex Pereira. I know Pereira's never been the fastest guy, but last night he was literally looking like the slowest light heavyweight. I can't be the only one that saw that. I know that if you're on the back foot for the majority of a fight, that takes a lot out of you, but still, he just looked slow as fuck. He wasn't man. Credit to Ankalaev for, proving a lot of people wrong by standing with Poatan, because I said that if Ankalaev were to stand with Alex, and if he were to stand with him for a long time, that he'd be screwed and he would get knocked out and Pereira would make it look relatively easy. Not the case at all. So I was dead wrong on this fight. I thought that Ankalaev would be able to get the takedowns. I was saying that if he wants a takedown, he'll get it. But, there's going to be moments in between where Pereira's able to outstrike him. But the striking was all extremely close. All extremely close. Very impressive. Pereira's takedown defense held up. Maybe that could do something for him mentally in the rematch, but he got hurt by Magomed, and it looked like his confidence went down after that. So, yeah, again, I'm not going to say this was like a brutal robbery, but, it's just a matter of fact that you could give him the third round. So people that are saying, 49-46, 4-1 Magomed, 4-1, so he won the first? Where he barely threw any strikes within the first couple of minutes, he won the first. Where after Pereira's 10th leg kick, Magomed had only thrown a couple of strikes. He won that round? I don't think so. He won the 5th, where Magomed went out there and just wouldn't really throw. We're midway through the 5th round, and the commentators are saying, wait, what the hell? Well, why is Magomed not throwing anything right now? He's been doing really well the past couple rounds. He won the 5th, where he got rocked in that round too? No, he didn't win that one. So how the fuck is it 4-1? And he won the 3rd? Okay, maybe you say he wins the 3rd because he's the aggressor, and we're going to do the ring generalship rule or whatever. And, he landed a couple of punches, but I'm sorry, man. If you actually tally up all the punches, they're very similar. Both of these guys had 3 or 4 punches landed in that round, and they all had a bunch of kicks. And none of those kicks were that damaging, but it was Poatan that outlanded him by 5 or 6 strikes. I think the significant strike stats that the UFC showed was 21 significant strikes for Poatan, 14 for Ankalaev. I don't always, rely on the stats because the stats are usually wrong, but I was watching it back and Pereira did outland him by again, 5 or 6 strikes. So anyone saying this was a domination, is just wrong. They, saw Alex Pereira have a shitty performance, all right? And we're not used to seeing Pereira get, pushed back like that and sort of punked a little bit on the feet. And, he got rocked. Of course, dude, it was a good performance from Magomed. But I think it's because Pereira looked like shit. And again, you could say that's because Magomed made him look like shit because he's a tricky customer on the feet. He's a master at keeping distance. Poatan was tentative after getting rocked. And Pereira just couldn't get going. And Magomed's style is, just an issue for him. But Pereira just looked bad. Credit to Magomed. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the rounds in and of themselves automatically all go to Magomed Ankalaev. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't just call me crazy. Don't just say that I'm biased. Because, again, I went back and watched round 3. I clearly gave round 4 to Magomed. I clearly gave round 2 to Alex Pereira. I am not someone that scores rounds in a biased way. If you've been watching this channel for a while, I am very objective when it comes to scoring rounds, and I'll always go back and watch. And anyone that's going to say, dude, you're just so wrong, you're just yapping at this point, I guarantee you those people will not go back and watch round 3. And again, maybe you say, well, even though Pereira outlanded him, Magomed was the aggressor, so we'll give him the round. But now we have Magomed Ankalaev as champ. Some people saying it was a dominant win. It wasn't a dominant win, but Poatan, listen, I'm going to be honest. Let's just say it how it is at this point. The performance that he had last night was a shit performance. It just was. And again, Magomed is partly why. Magomed is clearly ahead of Roundtree. And I think we knew that, but he's clearly ahead of Yuri. He's clearly ahead of Jamal Hill. And listen, I think, again, we all kind of knew that he was the cleaner striker. But I didn't know that he would be this hard for Poatan to find with the hands, and I also didn't think that he'd be that dangerous for Alex. But it's very clear that he is going to be a really difficult matchup for Pereira on the feet. And, I mean, he's going to be the much younger fighter. Poatan looking slow as fuck last night. I think no longer got the lighter man skill. Let's just say that. Poatan's been up at light heavyweight for a while. I don't know if he's got the lighter man skill anymore. Remember, the longer you're in the division, the more that lighter man skill just sort of wears off. Now he's a light heavyweight. Magomed's faster. Okay? So, shout out to Magomed Ankalaev. Again, we all went out and I whipped up some steaks for the boys from the Real Food Cookbook. It was a good time. It was a good time, man. Again, I actually have a buckle hat. Magomed gave me the buckle hat this time, so that was kind of funny. Listen, Poatan was not able to buckle Magomed that much with the kicks. I think he actually landed a record for himself for single fight statistics for kicks. I think he landed like 40 leg kicks, which is very impressive for Alex Pereira. Magomed Ankalaev, making sure that he was density maxing in this training camp. I know he was doing Ramadan, but actually we were making sure, because I was helping him with his nutrition, we were making sure to sort of feed him a diet that would make his bones a little bit more dense. And we were able to make that happen. You have to be very strict on the diet, as Magomed was. So, I'm happy that he won the belt. I'm happy that Magomed is the champion, and we're no longer in the Alex Pereira boring era. We now have banger matchups where Magomed is going to be the tricky customer, on the outside, and it's going to be impossible to hit him, and, there's going to be no firefights. And I'm really happy that we are going to see this Alex Pereira guy who's just a boring guy who leg kicks on the outside. He's a freaking pop shot or leg kicker like Adesanya. I'm happy that the Pereira boring era is over and the real entertaining champ is here. Man. The thing is, if they gave this to Alex, it would be such a shitty win. You know what I mean? It'd be like, you kind of got punked a little bit. Magomed was able to make him look like crap. But then again, Pereira kind of punked him in the takedown department, right? He kind of punked him in the wrestling. I made fun of Magomed for that. But listen, it's one of those things where Pereira just looks so weak on the feet, man. He looked outside of round one. Round 3, Pereira was doing his Guerrero, he was doing his Guerrero comeback, his recovering. Rocked, okay, staying safe. I'm going to be tentative, but then he kind of stayed in the tentative mentality. And he didn't go after Magomed as much as I thought he would in the 5th. He kind of needed that fucking finish, I guess. Just, Magomed must have really had Pereira tentative after that left hand that he landed, rocking Poatan. Saved by the bell, right? So, yeah. I mean, listen, I don't have a problem with them giving this to Magomed. It was a very close fight. It was a very close fight. I just wanted to be honest with how I saw the fight. I'm not going to get on here and say Magomed's a new champ, totally shut Pereira down, and listen, man, we should have seen this coming. Like, listen, I think some people were saying that Ankalaev could outstrike Alex Pereira with the threat of the takedown, but didn't get a single takedown. I don't think anyone saw that. And Alex Pereira, looking like a slowpoke. I mean, compared to Magomed, I knew that he wouldn't be necessarily faster, but still, I was sort of very underwhelmed with Pereira's ability to, he threw like 2 or 3 left hooks in the entire fight. Just, the thing is, he really wasn't moving forward like the Guerrero that we saw him in, the Guerrero spirit that we saw him have in the Adesanya first fight. That wasn't there. And again, it's not even like those takedowns. Oh, the takedown threat. He was stuffing them. He was stuffing them very well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in the rematch. But you know what? Shout out to Magomed Ankalaev. He's had a really tough run to the belt because, of course, he had those 2 fights with Ion Cutelaba. First fight, it was like a no contest. Then he had the 2 fights with Johnny Walker, and he had the fucking draw with Jan Blachowicz. So he's finally achieved his dreams of becoming champion. And for that reason, I'm happy for Magomed Ankalaev. Even though Pereira lost, it's not like he got chinned brutally. It's not like he got utterly dominated. And I know some, well, what do you mean? Oh, yeah. What do you mean he didn't get dominated, huh? He didn't get dominated. How? So let me get this straight. So Ankalaev was dominating the 3rd round despite the fact that he actually got outlanded and could have lost that round. Is that a dominant round? Thank you. Okay. So Magomed won the rounds 2 and rounds 4 clearly. Rounds 3 was the swing round, and I guess some people see it for him. But listen, it's not like Pereira got utterly dominated. It's not like Pereira's, longevity in MMA was reduced because of all the damage he took, even though he got rocked. He's going to be in a position where he can recover from this very easily. Didn't take a lot of damage. And even though he looked very slow last night, I could see him coming back and maybe winning a rematch. And for Magomed Ankalaev, this is going to give him a lot of confidence. And you know what? Next time these guys fight, it's probably not going to be during Ramadan. And you have to expect that we're at least going to get a slightly improved Magomed Ankalaev if that's the case. I don't know how much Ramadan took out of him. I know he wasn't fasting this week. But either way, it would more than likely be on his terms, maybe even in Abu Dhabi. Magomed's going to go to Abu Dhabi next. So, I think that the rematch is going to be razor close. Like, I will say I was totally wrong on how this fight was going to go. I thought that Pereira would be stalking him down. The aggressor on the feet, moving forward. But no, Magomed was the guy moving forward. So credit to him. He was really a high IQ fighter last night with his ability to take distance, play the parry game, and play the outside foot battle. So Magomed did a really good job at that. And, I was wrong. I thought the takedowns would be available for him. I picked Pereira, by the way. I thought the takedowns would be available for Magomed. Couldn't get a single one, which was, again, very surprising, but credit to Alex Pereira. Magomed was able to take down Blachowicz easily. He took down Johnny Walker, who's a unit. And, I've basically seen him take down everyone he's attempted to take down, but not Poatan. So Pereira's takedown defense was very impressive. But it's just that the striking this time was underwhelming. And maybe, who knows, maybe his striking didn't get nearly as much work in the training camp. And that's obvious, of course. But, hey, maybe Poatan's one of those guys where he's got to always be striking in the lead up to a fight for that striking to be on point. You know what I mean? Either way, shout out to Magomed. Credit to him. He's a champion. Very close fight. Again, even though I think that it was much closer than a lot of people had it, I'm not going to sit here and complain that much because of, like, you know, a swing round where Poaton's on the back foot, like throwing a bunch of kicks. You know what I mean? It's not that big of a deal. It is what it is. Magomed looked like the winner when it came to the body language and the vibe of the fight. So it looked like Poaton was really behind, which he technically was, but technically it was 2-2 going into the fifth, and he won the fifth. But either way, let's get on to the next one. Dude, you know, not the fight we wanted. You know, if you're a Magomed Ankalaev fan, the fight that you kind of wanted. Otherwise, but you probably wanted him to take down Poaton and, like, beat him up on the ground for a round. But, like, as a Poaton fan, you were just out there. I know you were just out there. And you were just thinking, like, dude, come on, just move forward a little bit. Like, and when he was moving forward in the fifth, you were like, come on, just throw a punch, bro. Throw a punch. And no, dude. So I think mentally, let's just say it how it is. Magomed was the winner in the cage last night mentally, right? So that's how it is. Let's get on to the next one. Justin Gaethje, Rafael Fiziev. This fight delivered. I actually thought this one was better than the first one. Justin Gaethje dropping Rafael Fiziev in the second round with a big uppercut. He hit a Rufus roll a couple times in this fight too. We saw Rafael Fiziev make him do the Rufus roll. No, we didn't see him make him do the Rufus roll. But listen, I thought Rafael Fiziev won this fight. And I picked Justin Gaethje to win this fight. Now, a lot of people thought that Fiziev was going to be able to KO Justin Gaethje because, of course, he had gotten flatlined, almost 37 years old. But the thing that I had said is that, listen, number one, and credit to Rafael Fiziev because this was the best short notice performance we've seen in a high-level fight in I don't know how long. I made it a point to talk about how all of these big matchups where something falls out, the guy that's stepping in on short notice never wins. The best performance that I can think of is Usman against Khamzat Chimaev, but no one else wins. Volkanovski, short notice, doesn't win. No one is winning these short notice fights, right? Nobody. But Rafael Fiziev had a great short notice performance, so that was impressive. But I also said, listen, Rafael Fiziev isn't that dangerous when it comes to, like, the most dangerous top 15 lightweights. He is obviously dangerous in general, like, clearly, but when we're talking about Rafael Fiziev's finishing ability versus Poirier, versus Charles Oliveira, versus even Islam Makhachev, first off, he's always been a little undersized for the lightweight division. He's always the smaller guy in there. Even though he's very dense, he is a density maxer, 100%. You know, I'm kind of built like Fiziev. Again, compared to the lightweights, he's usually the smaller guy when it comes to the frame. And his pop when it comes to the hands. He's got, you know, sting. Rafael Fiziev, he looks like he's hitting you with a mountain of power, but it doesn't always translate, right? Because it was clear that when Justin Gaethje would land big, he would land bigger than when Rafael Fiziev would land big. And that's kind of how it's always been with Rafael Fiziev. Some people can say, what do you mean Fiziev's not dangerous? You now know what I mean, okay? Rafael Fiziev, when he's landing these big, powerful shots, it's not really stumbling people around the way that even a Gaethje, who's not the heaviest hitter, Gaethje doesn't have the most KOs. He's a very heavy hitter, though. Gaethje's hits harder. So I was saying that, listen, even though Fiziev's taking this on short notice, man, and you know, that's not good for him, but I also just think he doesn't have the pop to knock Gaethje out necessarily, unless he lands a flush head kick, and he got pretty close on a couple of occasions. But Gaethje was the heavier hitter, and you know what? Gaethje still has it, man. That's impressive. Almost 37 at lightweight, he still has it against a guy like Rafael Fiziev, who even though took this on short notice, is still in his prime. He's been training. I was a little worried at one moment where it looked like Fiziev took a couple of weird steps in the end of the first round, and it almost seemed like he had gotten injured, and I was like, oh man, this guy's got the worst luck ever. If only Fiziev was healthy. But Justin Gaethje holds it down. But listen, here's the thing. Rafael Fiziev won the first round very clearly. He came out there with a very patient approach, right? Sort of picking his shots. And I thought that was really good considering his gas tank isn't that great. Second round, Justin Gaethje drops Rafael Fiziev, clearly wins that round. And I don't know if you could consider it a 10-8, but it was a bad knockdown. But, you know, I'm just going to say this about Justin Gaethje. I don't think he handled that all that well. I mean, he jumped on Rafael Fiziev afterwards to try to get him out of there, but when Fiziev rolled over, Justin Gaethje just kind of opted to control him on the ground rather than let him get up, and like there was still 40 seconds on the clock. He was still very rocked. Justin Gaethje, by letting Rafael Fiziev stay on the ground just to opt for control and hit him with little pop shot body shots, allowed him to recover. So I didn't think that was a great move from Gaethje, but it is what it is. Round 3, though. Round 3. So Justin Gaethje's got the momentum. He's got the momentum. Sort of like round 5 of Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. Justin Gaethje not doing a whole lot in the beginning of round 3. Rafael Fiziev, body kick after body kick after body kick. There was a moment where Rafael had landed like 3, roundhouse kicks to the body, and then like 2 teeps, and then like a combination after that, and he was ahead on strikes. And then they were in the clinch, and Rafael Fiziev was landing mean density maxing knees in the clinch, right? And, he was doing his usual bop, bop, bop. And Justin Gaethje, how did Justin Gaethje win the round? I guess, listen, I'm just going to be honest. I don't know how the fuck he won round 3. I'm sorry, man. Like, I know he landed a couple of punches here and there, but it looked like Rafael Fiziev, for every punch Justin Gaethje landed, it got erased from my memory when I saw Rafael Fiziev land 10-piece body kick combos. And density maxing knees in the clinch, dude. Density maxing knees. All right? And not only that, we're midway through the third round, and Justin Gaethje's clinching with Rafael Fiziev. Oh, here comes the body language judges. Justin Gaethje's holding him against the fence now. Rafael Fiziev looks gassed. And I was actually kind of upset. I'm like, dude, what the fuck, bro? What is Gaethje doing? Why is he holding him against the fence? This isn't a Justin Gaethje style of fight. And I guess at the end of the round, he landed a couple of big shots, but like Gaethje in the third round was clenching, smudging, and landed a couple of big shots, but nothing where it was like, until the last minute, there was nothing that was like, whoa, Justin Gaethje had just had a big moment. I thought Rafael Fiziev stole round 3. Hey, I know some people aren't going to be happy with this. I saw the main event the other way. I saw the co-main event the other way. I will say this, very impressive for Rafael Fiziev to shoot some takedowns. That was actually kind of funny in the first round where Fiziev had the reverse inverted triangle, and he's like elbowing Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje's just in the most miserable position on the ground. That's the most Justin Gaethje ground game moment ever. And I thought, man, dude, we might see Justin Gaethje just get slept out cold while getting elbowed. That's exactly how Gaethje would have gotten done. Gaethje wouldn't have just gotten submitted in a rear naked choke this time. No, he would have gotten elbowed to oblivion, Gene Silva style of body elbows, Yoel Romero style of body elbows, and slept at the exact same time. And that would have been the most miserable way for Justin Gaethje to go out. He got out of it. So you know what? Credit to Justin Gaethje. His ground game has actually improved, because Rafael Fiziev, even though he's a striker, he's one of these Petrosyan-ass strikers. You just know it. He doesn't really show it. And I'm talking about his grappling. Rafael Fiziev out there at Tiger Muay Thai, his takedown defense he's got brick wall takedown defense. But you just know he's got some slick tricks, right? All these Muay Thai guys have some slick tricks when it comes to takedowns. Rafael Fiziev, I wouldn't be so shocked if this guy's a pretty decent grappler too, and he showed it. But Justin Gaethje, credit to him, he was able to get out of it, right? Rafael Fiziev's got the density maxing strength, but Justin Gaethje, he's got that natural, explosive strength from the mines, right? He can just kind of explode out of those positions. Dude, I'm happy that Justin Gaethje won, by the way. Like, obviously, I'm happy that I got my pick right, but more importantly, I'm happy that Justin Gaethje is not washed and still in the game. And when Justin Gaethje is still in the game, it makes it better. But I just had maybe you could call this a draw. Maybe you could say, okay, Rafael Fiziev round 3, Rafael Fiziev round 1, and then Gaethje drops him round 2. That this is a draw, but that would have pissed everyone off. So I'm kind of happy that it wasn't, even if they gave it to Gaethje. Listen, I'm not going to say this was a brutal robbery, but I thought Fiziev had won this. And again, I'm not just going to sit here and act like, oh no, well, I guess it was close. I'm not going to, ruffle any feathers. No, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's the thing. I'm not going to come on here and just say what I don't actually think. I thought that Rafael Fiziev took round 3. Okay? Watch it back. Rafael Fiziev, in the beginning of round 3, where Justin Gaethje should have all the momentum, we see patient Gaethje, and Rafael Fiziev's like back in it. Body kick after body kick after body kick after body kick after body kick, jab, body kick, teep, combo, right? Oh, now they're in the clinch. Big density maxing knees. Dude, Rafael Fiziev is a fucking density maxer, son. You know? I'm built like Fiziev, man. What do you know? I'm built like Fiziev, man. You know, Fiziev's all, you know, I know I told you I helped out Magomed with his nutrition. I actually helped Fiziev with his strength and conditioning. Right? He was on that ultimate lifting program. But, dude, I'm actually so happy that Justin Gaethje won this fight, though. Even though I kind of feel bad for Fiziev because he kind of fucking won that shit. You just know they would have been booing. And they would have been booing if they gave it to Fiziev because of the drop, the knockdown in the second round, right? Because of the knockdown in the second round. Or the body language, guys. Oh, if Fiziev's tired at the third, and well, we remember that big moment in the second. That's how the judges score fights. They remember a big booming moment from Justin Gaethje, and then they remember Fiziev looking tired at the end when he's in the clinch. But you actually watch round 3, it could have gone his way. Either way, Justin Gaethje is not washed. He still has it. He still has that Rufus power. He still has, the classic Justin Gaethje elements that make people root for. Listen, I've never been the biggest fan of Gaethje just because I've always been a fan of his fights. Let me just say that. I've always been a fan of his fights. I've always gotten excited for his fights. I've never been a big, Justin Gaethje style fan when it just comes to which fighters do I like their fight style the most. I like the way Justin Gaethje goes to war and all that. I like that, he's out there and he's breaking down minds, but sometimes he looks kind of sloppy when he's throwing his punches and he goes, and when you're watching a Dustin Poirier fight, Poirier's out there and he throws the jab and the lead hook, man, and he's looking crispy, right? And he's doing the Philly shell against Max Holloway. Max Holloway, man, he's avalanche on the feet. Volkanovski, man, he's switching stances, man, he's popping you around. Charles Oliveira, Muay Thai, clean Muay Thai, amazing jiu-jitsu. And Justin Gaethje's sort of like the odd man out. And I'm a fan of Justin Gaethje. I just can't say his style is necessarily like the most, inspiring style on the feet. But I am a Justin Gaethje fan, okay? I'm going to say it. I'm a Justin Gaethje fan. And back in the day, I remember when this guy was fighting Michael Chandler. You guys, if you were watching the sport, you remember when Justin Gaethje, back in 2021, Justin Gaethje just had a freaking mean streak to him. He was saying, this guy should burn, man. Justin Gaethje was an angry man in 2021, and it was rubbing me the wrong way in some of these interviews. When he was fighting Michael Chandler, when he was talking about other opponents, I was like, man, why are you so pissed off, bro? Why is Justin Gaethje so pissed all the time? But you know what? I actually like Justin Gaethje a lot. He seems chill. I've been listening to the interviews. I'm a big fan of Justin Gaethje, and it was just for 1 year where this guy seemed like he was a little pissed off, a little bit too pissed off all the time. But you know what? I'm happy that he's back. I'm happy that Justin Gaethje's back, and I wouldn't have wanted to see him just get slept out cold because that just would have been sad. So yeah, Justin Gaethje. Who's he going to fight next? I guess we can talk about that. I'm going to do a fights to make video. Rafael Fiziev, really gutsy performance. Great performance on short notice. Again, we don't really see that often. But this is like another lesson to always kind of pick. In these high-level matchups, short notice replacements on prelim fights can go a little bit differently if they're put together a couple weeks out. If they're put together the day before, of course, you usually go with the guy that has the training camp. But Rafael Fiziev, very impressive short notice performance. Let's get on to the next one. Jalin Turner, Ignacio Bahamondes. Surprising. Ignacio Bahamondes, Jalin Turner. I picked Bahamondes to win this fight. I picked him to finish Jalin Turner, but I thought it would have been a second or third round war of attrition TKO. And it looked like it was very competitive on the feet, pretty even on the feet. Both guys landing some good strikes, some good kicks, some head kick attempts. But then they go to the ground. I believe Jalin Turner had the upper hand, had Ignacio Bahamondes on the ground. And I'm already thinking, okay, Jalin Turner's going to control him. He's got a really good ground game. We've seen him submit Brad Riddell. We've seen him get a lot of submissions. And then Ignacio Bahamondes catches Jalin Turner slipping and puts him into a head and arm triangle, chokes Jalin Turner out. Turner, did he even really try to fight it? I didn't even see him tap. I don't know if he tapped. I think he may have tapped. But it just seemed like one of those moments where Jalin Turner gets put in a bad position and all of a sudden, nope, no longer going to fight through it. But either way, he got checkmated. Ignacio Bahamondes caught us all by surprise by getting that submission. And what can you say other than you're impressed, right? Ignacio Bahamondes is known for his great striking, but is able to pull off those submissions. I guess, that work with Belal Muhammad's been doing wonders, although I say the work with Belal Muhammad, but then again, it's not like Belal Muhammad's really submitting anyone. But either way, can't be that shocked that his ground game is pretty decent. And I think this is the win that's going to prove that Ignacio Bahamondes is the real deal, and he can go into the top 10 someday. So, I think this was a big moment for Ignacio Bahamondes. I expect a big fight from him next. Amanda Lemos versus Asmin Lucindo. This was a really good one. I immediately made my recap on this one last night. I actually skipped the main event, the co-main event, and the feature fight. I actually watched them later on in the night because I had to do an hour and a half recap on this one. It's on my boxing channel if you're interested. You can check that one out. But just an amazing fight. But you know what I am going to say? I actually understand why they do these fights now. Because they always put him in the second spot on the main card or the feature fight on the main card. And I actually kind of understand why, because the UFC knows. They freaking know that Joshua Van and Rei Tsuruya is a better matchup for entertainment. They put this here to give people a break. And I'm not just talking about the old bathroom break. I literally mean like a mental break, because we see, and we're going to get to Bobby Green and Mauricio Ruffy, but sometimes you see these crazy fights, right? Like, think about it, like Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler. Really good war. What came after that? It was Billy Quarantillo versus, dude, I forget his name, man. He's PFL now, he beat Charles Djorden. Oh, fuck, dude, we're not going to do this right now. Billy Quarantillo versus, we're not going to do this right now, but we may as well, because this is like, a thing that I always have to do. Shane Burgos. We didn't have to go there. We didn't have to, wait around for 10 minutes. I'm a hardcore fan. Man. I said that he had that fight with Charles Djorden. You know what I'm talking about. He got the nod, but Djorden probably won. Either way, right after Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler, we had another war with crazy output. I think both Burgos and Quarantillo had landed over like 150 significant strikes. Crazy output war. But the fans, because they were loud and they were screaming in the Gaethje versus Chandler fight, were kind of gassed out. They were tired. They needed to recover, right? And that fight between Burgos and Quarantillo didn't get the same pop. The crowd was pretty silent. So what they should do after a crazy intro fight on a pay-per-view is give some people a break. Give them a break. Give them a fight where it's like, because then you almost have that mental nap where afterwards, now you're like, oh shit, now we got Bahamondes versus Turner. Now we got Gaethje versus Fiziev. Now you're waking up again. And you know what I'm talking about, because after this fight, you thought like, oh man, like what this just fucking sucks, man. And then as soon as it ends, you realize you have 3 amazing fights ahead of you, and then your energy's fully back and recovered. It's even higher than it was right before because you've been watching the whole card, right? So I understand why the UFC does it now. I get it. And I actually think it's actually kind of a good idea. Because, again, people have been watching all these fights. That's a long time, right? So, good recovery. King Green, Bobby Green versus Mauricio Ruffy. Yeah. I picked Bobby Green to win this one. I said Bobby Green was going to go out there and, Mauricio Ruffy's got a bad gas tank and he's just, he's a fake McGregor. No, I'm kidding. I picked Mauricio Ruffy to KO Bobby Green in the first round, but I didn't think it'd be by spinning wheel kick. That's for sure. But it was very clear within the first couple of minutes that Mauricio Ruffy, although he was walking forward, and that's like the way Bobby Green likes people to fight him, is he likes people walking forward. So I was thinking, man, maybe Bobby Green's going to start to, get off on the outside and start landing some shots. But it was very clear after Mauricio Ruffy landed the first right hand that clearly stumbled Bobby Green, that it was only a matter of time before he knocked him out. And here's the thing. Bobby Green just doesn't have a lot of power in his hands. This was a matchup Green was never going to win, let's be honest, okay? Insane spinning wheel kick. It didn't even look like it landed that hard, but it did. Obviously, it did. We saw the replay. It landed on, Bobby Green's temple and just flattened him out, slept him out cold. And I've seen Bobby Green go out cold too many times now for him to be fighting people like Mauricio Ruffy moving on from here. Like, I don't want to see Bobby Green as like a layup fighter anymore, because even though he didn't get knocked out against Paddy Pimblett, he got slept out cold. All right, now that's not a lot of brain damage compared to getting KO'd, but we've seen him get knocked out by Turner, we've seen him get knocked out by Drew Dober, we've seen him get knocked out by Poirier. So, listen, if Bobby Green's going to stick around and fight out his contract, let's actually just give him old heads from here on out. Let's give him not even a Chase Hooper, right? I just said old heads and then I bring up Chase Hooper. Well, you got my point. Like, I don't want to see Bobby Green get, slumped out cold in a triangle while getting elbowed in the face. That's probably what Chase Hooper would do to him. It'd be like a Justin Gaethje Fiziev moment where Green would go out cold. Let's just give Bobby Green a pillow punching vet, okay? Let's see a couple of let's go back to the old days. Let's do a couple more Orlando Venata fights, right? Let's do those type of fights. Who's like a really old vet in the lightweight division? There's not that many. Let's do Bobby Green versus Vince Pichel. Yeah, let's do that. Mauricio Ruffy, I expected him to get the KO, but him doing it with a spinning wheel kick is just going to add so much to his highlight reel. Dude, these fighting nerds fighters, they are all... And Baralho is very good, but Baralho, out of the whole bunch, even though he's sort of the furthest in his division, like he's the closest to a title shot, the other guys are even more impressive. Mauricio Ruffy, Gene Silva, Carlos Prates, these guys are just stacking up highlight reel after highlight reel after highlight reel, and they're like competing with who can get the better highlight reel at this point. So this is 100% the most exciting team in MMA for ages. What's the last exciting team like this, right? What was it, American Top Team? Remember when American Top Team came out back in the freaking 90s? I can imagine this is how people were feeling in the 2000s, where the American Top Team wrestlers, right? The college wrestlers into the MMA gym were feeling back in the day. Or the Black Zillions. Remember that? There was a tough season where there was the Black Zillions and, this team's on another level. And remember, there was Shoot the Bucks, when Anderson Silva and Wanderlei, back in the 90s. This is how people probably felt back in the 90s, where Wanderlei, Joe Rogan was talking about, they had killers in the gym. Wanderlei Silva and Paulo Corallo or whatever. I'm just making up names. And Anderson Silva. They had like two fighters. But listen, back in the day, dude, this is like the fucking shoot the box in the modern era, but like these guys are fucking 1,000 times better. So I'm happy to see Mauricio Ruffy continue to get these wins, bro. This guy's so entertaining. He only has 3 fights in the UFC. Only 3 fights in the UFC, and it already feels like this guy's been around for ages. That's how it is with every single one of these fighting nerds. They're getting so many amazing wins. They're just so memorable. For most fighters, you don't really remember their wins that much when it comes to like exactly what happened, but you do when it comes to the fighting nerds. Let's get on to the next one. Joshua Van, Rei Tsuruya. I picked Joshua Van to win this because I knew he had great takedown defense. I know on commentary, Rogan was saying, and this takedown defense, he didn't have that in his UFC debut, although he did. Joshua Van always had amazing takedown defense, which is exactly why I picked him. And he gets this one done by sprawl and brawl. Doesn't have a lot of pop, right? Joshua Van never has a lot of pop, which is something I think he needs to work on, maybe packing on a little bit more heat into those shots. But either way, clear win for him. Rei Tsuruya, very impressive gas tank, but really only chucking a naked right hand at distance and then charging in for takedown after failing every single one. It's clear that if he can't get takedowns, his game is not that well-rounded at all. But I'm sure he expected to dominate. He got a couple of takedowns, right? But Joshua Van was able to spring right back up. And that's that flyweight skill, man. Joshua Van, brick wall takedown defense since day one. So this was not a surprise at all. Joshua Van gets it done. Really good win for him, but let's see him get a ranked opponent again. Brunno Ferreira versus Armen Petrosyan. Now, this one was kind of sad for Petrosyan because he had just gotten put in a highlight reel against the Pirate, right? But now he's fighting Brunno Ferreira. Brunno Ferreira just got submitted by Abus Magomedov, and now he's, turning the script, man, and now he's submitting Armen Petrosyan, right? So he gets the armbar. How often do we see an armbar, let alone in middleweight? Although middleweight would be one of those divisions where you would see an armbar because it's not like, people aren't getting hit with arm bars at featherweight. They're getting hit with them in the big, clunky, plotty divisions. But yeah, Brunno Ferreira hits an armbar on Armen Petrosyan, makes him tap. I thought Petrosyan was maybe winning, but then he got a point deducted in the first round because of the nut shot. Either way, really impressive out-of-nowhere win for Brunno Ferreira. We rarely see that in MMA anyway, so, he's sort of taking us back to the old days, the 90s, the Ronda Rousey days. So shout out to him for that. Alex Morono versus Carlos Leal. Dude, this was funny. This was so funny. The way that I was viewing this fight, I picked Carlos Leal by whatever he wanted, by the way. But Morono actually did a little bit better than I thought. Like, he was just standing tough. He would refuse to go down. He refused to go down. But the reason why I found this funny is because while I was watching this, I was like, Morono is the embodiment and the representation for all the people that back in the it was more popular back in the day when MMA was relatively new. When you had champions like Cain Velasquez. Like, I'm not talking about 90s. I'm talking about like early 2010s. Or late 2000s, when you had champs like Cain Velasquez and Fedor or Emelianenko, right? And these guys weren't that built, right? And then there was this thing like, well, real fighters don't have to be built. Actually, it doesn't matter what you look like in MMA. And to be fair, they had some nuance to it. They were saying, well, these guys have good cardio. They don't train, to be like, Bruce Lee in the movies where he's all ripped and all that. They're training for fighting, man. They don't have to look like bodybuilders, right? Which is totally understandable. But at the same time, back in the day, there really was this idea of it doesn't matter how you look. Cain Velasquez is fat and flabby. And again, if you look at every single weight class today, everyone at the top of their division is actually lean and mean, right? Everyone. You don't have a fat fighter in the top 10 at featherweight. When I say fat, like, you don't have anyone that's sort of flabby, or everyone's dense. Everyone's shredded because, again, there's more people in the sport. Everyone weight cuts a lot. And especially at heavyweight, it's like obviously the best athletes are the ones that look like athletes as well. Gane, Aspinall, Volkov, you get my point. There aren't any fat guys in the top 5. Sergey Pavlovich is like the fattest guy, and he's not even fat. But my point is, Alex Morono was like the representation for people saying, dude, fighting is all about how fighting is all about how you train and all that, right? It has nothing to do with genetics. It has nothing to do with how good of an athlete you are. And Carlos Leal was the representation of like modern era. Fuck you. It's actually everything at this point. It's not just the fact that you train, but it's the fact that you train, but you're also like a serious athlete and you're doing your strength and conditioning and you're firing on all cylinders at this point. So it was like Morono's like the old guard. It's like the old guard. Shamil the Blob Gaziev could be champ at heavyweight as long as he just trains. And Carlos Leal was like the new guard. And it was like a battle between the old guard and the new guard. And Morono, those stubborn old heads, those stubborn guys from back in the day, they refused to go down without a fight. And I couldn't help myself but laugh while watching this one. So Leal gets it done. TKO's Alex Morono. Standing. Alex Morono was standing on the feet, refused to go down. You got to give him some credit, though, because it looks like Morono just would have gotten dusted. But yeah, Carlos Leal, I believe he was like a minus 700 favorite. He won his first fight against Renat Fakhretdinov. That was a brutal robbery. Now he's got 2 wins. Step down in competition, but he made it look like a step down in competition because he had absolutely no respect for Alex Morono, right? But again, Morono, very stubborn last night. Wouldn't go down without a fight. So you got to give him some credit for that. Francis Marshall versus Mairon Santos. I thought Marshall won this fight. It was clear that Marshall won one of the rounds. I believe it was round 2. He got the knockdown on Mairon Santos. So obviously he took that round. And round 3, Francis Marshall, he got a couple of takedowns or had some control time, I believe, in the 3rd round and was also landing some decent punches. And I guess they gave it to Mairon Santos because he was landing the crafty kicks at range. And I know you're going to bring up the Alex Pereira, Round 5, well, you said Pereira won that round. Yeah, I know, but Marshall actually had some control time in the third. And he actually got himself a takedown at the end of the fight. I think he got it at the end of the fight, at the end of the third round. And again, was landing some punches, had himself a knockdown, clearly stole one of the rounds. I think it was either the first, I think it may have been the first round that he got the knockdown, maybe not the second. But either way, I gave this fight to Francis Marshall. I thought that he had won. I thought that he had edged it out. It was clear. The crowd thought the same. I think most people thought the same. Mairon Santos, UFC debut. Tough task in his UFC debut because Francis Marshall has a lot of experience compared to him in the UFC. But he did pretty okay. But I expected this to be a little bit more one-sided on the feet. I knew that Marshall had some power, but I didn't expect him to be with it this much on the feet because Mairon Santos, he's this guy that's, I think he won tough, right? And he was head and shoulders better than everyone else on tough. And compared to all those guys, he looks like a world beater. But then, of course, it's like a totally different thing you get in the UFC. You're fighting real levels of competition. It was much closer than I thought. I will say maybe he edged out just in the striking alone. Maybe edged it out, but it was by a hair in the third. The thing is, if it's only by a hair and the other guy gets a takedown and gets a minute of control, a couple pop shots, I think you give it to him. So, I had this for Francis Marshall, but they gave it to Mairon Santos. And then Ozzy Diaz versus Djorden Santos. This, in my opinion, is going to go down as a Hall of Fame, highest level fight of all time. You've seen Volkanovski versus Holloway too. You've seen Makhachev versus Volk. We're going to see Makhachev versus Topuria. You've seen Aljo versus Movsar. Ozzy Diaz versus Djorden Santos. I actually am going to break this down. I'm going to do a 10-hour tape study on Ozzy Diaz versus Djorden Santos on the boxing channel because there was a lot of boxing in this one. Now, you may ask, why did you do a breakdown of Lemos versus Lucindo on the boxing channel? Because that one was so interesting that I just had to. But this one, a lot of boxing. Djorden Santos, I don't even know how to describe Djorden Santos. He's like one of these... he's sort of like Jar Jar Binks, He's sort of like Jar Jar Binks. He's just one of these tricky customers, man. He's a fucking tricky customer, dude. He's a marauder. Djorden Santos is a marauder, dude. He went out there in the first round and he's putting his hands up. He's like, yeah, right? And then he's just slugging. And Ozzy Diaz putting the sweet pea on him. Ozzy Diaz was putting the sweet pea special on him, right? But Djorden Santos was just raising his hands, dancing in his face, moving forward. I think he even snuck in a couple of hammer fists on the feet. I think he threw a couple backhands. Not spinning back fists, but punches where he was landing with the ball of his fist. Djorden Santos is a marauder and a tricky customer. He was like a more competitive Alex Morono, just refusing to go down, even though Ozzy Diaz had him on Crip Street a few times. So I thought this was a really fun fight. High output. It definitely surpassed our expectations. This is the type of fight you see on the opening spot of the early prelims, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to fucking miss this one. But I was happy that I actually watched it. But again, you expect this to be one of those forgettable leg kick type of fights where they land a couple of punches. Maybe you'll get I keep thinking this is heavyweight. Ozzy Diaz literally looks like a heavyweight. Ozzy Diaz. It's not even just his physique. He just has the face of a heavyweight. Is that not the face of a guy that you'd expect to be fighting as an NPC from heavyweight? Let's be honest. But also, he just looks like a heavyweight that still has some pounds to lose and could be fighting in a lower weight class, right? Both of these guys could probably be fighting at welterweight, but he has the heavyweight looking like he could fight at middleweight type of physique, and he's literally fighting at middleweight. So I guess this is actually what Ozzy Diaz was probably a heavyweight back in the day. I guarantee it. I don't even have to look it up. Ozzy Diaz has the physique of a guy that fought at heavyweight and was actually told the truth. A lot of these heavyweights, their team doesn't tell them the truth. Hey, man, you're never going to be champ. Look at the people at the top of the division. You're fat, and all these guys are obviously going to destroy you. But Ozzy Diaz was actually told the truth. It looks like it. And it looks like he had lost the weight. So Ozzy Diaz is a former heavyweight type of fighter in the middleweight, ran into a tricky customer in his middleweight debut. Djorden Santos just wouldn't go away. Djorden Santos looks like a former light heavyweight, right? Djorden Santos looks like a fasted light heavyweight. He looks like a fasted, underfed light heavyweight. Ozzy Diaz looks like a post 1 year transformation weight loss heavyweight. So This was a really solid fight. I actually thought this was a great fight. Credit to both of them. Jordin Santos is a legend. He's a Marauder. I should have put him on the Marauders list, but I didn't know about him. So, yeah, amazing card. Really good card. Man, Magomed's champ. Magomed is champ. That's big. That's big. But let me know what you guys think about my take. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.